What's going on, guys? Family Tam here from level1gaming.com. I thank you guys for rocking with us once again. Today we have a very special episode for you guys. We woke up first thing in the morning because we would not hesitate to speak with amazing creators. And today we have one special for you guys. I'm gonna start with some introductions really quick. Of course, you guys know Dallas Man.
What's up? What's
And
up?
we got
What's up?
and we got the brother Baron Jones 6'7". And now Baron J 6'7". Now he looks a little different today because he decided to cut his beard. You're wondering like, who is this guy? But I promise you, that's him.
The guy sending emails. What up, everybody?
And we have a special guest today. The reason why we're all here. Now, before I introduce him, I want to say that thank the TikTok god for bringing me across his profile, because it took me literally 2.5 seconds to send a message to Baron and said, we have to speak with him. From Sword of Symphony, Stephen Ddungu. How's it going, brother?
It's going good, thank you. It's going good. My surname is Ddungu.
Ddungu.
Yeah, Ddungu.
Yeah, Ddungu.
And
Yeah.
the shameful part about this is Ddungu, Stephen Ddungu. The shameful part about this is I said it correctly before we started recording, and I said it wrong. I do apologize. Stephen Ddungu from Sword of Symphony. Thank you for taking time out to speak with us. I know you are on the other side of the globe, so the time difference is a little bit off, but we appreciate you taking time to speak with us today. Now, I'm not going to hold you. I was instantly attracted to your game, the music aspect of it, and I immediately ran to Dallas because he is our resident musician here at Level One Gaming. And then I seen the black character, and I instantly felt like connected to this game. Like, holy crap! I need to see. I need to know. I need to get more in depth about this title. So before we get to asking you a million questions and racking your brain about your game, could you please just kind of give us an overview about yourself as a game developer, as a musician, and how you came about Sword of Symphony?
Right. So me myself, I'm just a uni graduate, but in terms of like my career, in terms of like game development and like music, I've kind of been like first and foremost, I'm a musician, and I've been a musician since I was like very very little, and I'm a self-taught musician because the way I learned was when I was very very little. My mom got me this keyboard, this piano keyboard for my birthday, but just as like a little toy to play around with. But I was like obsessed with it. So like every single day, like my mom would be getting ready, and then like I'd be downstairs like while she's getting ready after she's got me ready. So like just play it after I finish my breakfast, and that would be happening like every single day before I go to school, and then like when I come back from school, and like I really like just trying out different things and like trying out things that I was like inspired by and trying to replicate that and like implement that, and I also like to compose my own stuff. So that's kind of how I've always been. And I started like doing music digitally when I was around about 11 when I got my laptop, and I just basically like started continuing from there. And in terms of game development, I started doing that after I started dabbling in animation around about 2017, because I was working on my first project, which is connected to Sword of Symphony, called Purpose. And it's split into two projects. One is an animated series, one is a video game. And the animated series I started first. And since the story for that was getting quite large, I wanted to break it up into two segments. So I kind of divided it and had the other arc, so to speak, in the video game. And that's when I started teaching myself game development. The same way I taught myself animation, really. Like, it's just a bunch of YouTube tutorials and, like really making sure that every day I at least learn something, or I've at least done something contributing to the project. Because at the start, it was really difficult to like balance both things. So like with like everything else I was doing, because 2017 I was doing my final exams for A level. So I was just basically like a slow but progressive kind of build in terms of skill to where I am right now. And game development, I did that, started in 2019. I had the engine on my laptop, just like that was just like experimenting with it on like a noob level. I wasn't really taking it serious. I just had the engine because I was just like, okay, this is cool, like a little hobby. But I took it seriously when I had the idea for the game project of my animated series. And that's when like everything I know now has been an accumulative learning progress result over the past 2 years. I had to check because it's like 2021 now to like 29. Yeah. So basically that's my game development journey, and how Sword of Symphony came about is round about this time period where where I came up with Sword of Symphony. I actually was trying to decide what to do for my final year university project because I was doing a music technology course in my university, and since the summer just before that term, just before the start of term of my final year, I was working on the cinematic trailer for Purpose, and I was thinking I could use that, but by the time this term started, I'd already almost finished it, so I couldn't really like give this to my professors and be like, oh yeah, I want to do this because it's like 90% finished. It's not really like a so like, and then for my course, I had to do something that kind of used the skills and like the theory about audio and visual and sort of stuff, and like the synergies between the two, and have that in like kind of like a practical kind of case study in a sense. So since I already did the cinematic trailer which used that, I was like, okay, well, I can't just do that. It's kind of cheating. So I was like, okay, I need to think of something absolutely new, but something small, but something that doesn't like take me away from what I'm already doing in a sense, like in terms of my skills, like animation and game development, because I don't want to like have like a huge hiatus and then come back and I'm like, like the momentum's gone and then you just get like, you just don't know what you're doing really. So I started sketching like ideas for, initially it was supposed to be like with my Purpose characters, but now I was thinking doesn't really make any sense. So I decided to like do an entirely new project, and that was when I started doing the early sketches for Sword of Symphony. And but at the start it had no story. It was just a small prototype level, which I was just intending to just hand in and forget about straight afterwards and go to Purpose afterwards. But I made a social media account for Sword of Symphony just to let people know that I'm not dead. I'm still working. I'm still working, like doing stuff. It's just not Purpose at the moment, and I was gonna get back to it afterwards. So just that people can know what I'm doing, see what I'm doing if they're interested, just in case. So at the start, like I wasn't getting that many followers, but I wasn't really expecting that many followers, to be honest. Like it was just just something on the side. And at that time, I was just doing like the game mechanics, like the running, the jumping, and all the music-based, just the stuff without any sound. And that was on my Twitter account and on my Instagram. And when I started doing like the musical combat with the music, like with the fighting with the music, that's when the views started coming in. And because I think like around about that time, people can like kind of see this is actually what the game is about. Like you actually do fight with the power of music and that sort of stuff. And I don't think people kind of knew that before I like showed it. I think people just saw like maybe it was just like a game where like you fight and it's just like a regular hack and slash, but it's like with musical notes, which it's not that new. But like when you actually fight with the actual soundtrack itself, that's what I think it caught a lot of interest very quickly, because I mean I have to give myself credit. It is like a fairly new idea. I mean but like I'm just surprised it like got this amount of popularity as quickly as it did. So like I'm very grateful for like all the people who like took an interest in it and have been sharing it around, because it's like definitely made like the whole like showing update kind of process for me like a lot easier. Like I don't have to like rush so much to like show like the next thing, because like I know that like a lot of people are already interested in it. So but at that time I hadn't got TikTok yet. It was just on Twitter. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, maybe I should actually make this an actual thing, because people are like really liking it. And at that time, I'd got 1K followers on the Sword of Symphony Twitter, and I hadn't even got 1K on the Purpose projects yet. And I'd been working on them like years before, since like ever since like mid 2018, 19, so around about that time period. So yeah, I was like, well, looks like Sword of Symphony is the project that's gonna like.
But you can see why though. I think people are intrigued by the style, and when you see combat, like music based combat, and it's not. I don't know if it exactly is. So correct me if I'm wrong. But it seems as if it's not. The combat is based on the music. It seems as if the combat is making the music. So how exactly I mean, I'm a layman, so if you get too technical, it's gibberish to me. But how is it? How is it made? Like, how does it work? When I ask that, I mean, is because it can be very rhythmic? Are you stuck to a certain rhythm? Like, is it stuck, say, in a certain time signature, and you have to stick to that, or is it made in a way where if you have fruit thumbs, it sounds that way?
All right, so this is where I get full on like game dev technical music nerd. Um, basically, the way it works is in the game environment, there's like an invisible property in like the air, and that's basically counts the beats. I've made it so that it counts. It's like a regular timer, but I've made the speed of it kind of a certain way so that each value interval in that counter is the length of time of each interval of a beat in a particular BPM, basically. So if it's 120 beats per minute, then it will count from 1 to 30, because that's one beat in 120 beats per minute, from 1 to 30 frames, and it'll get from 1 to 30 frames between the first and the second beat, basically. And then that's kind of like, it'll basically multiply upwards like that. So then in 120 beats, it's reached well, the correct amount, basically. And yeah, I might have been a little bit inaccurate about that. That's off the top of my head, but that's basically how like the system works and that sort of stuff. But so yeah, I had to like devise a little formula to like make sure that works for like all like BPMs that I could like do, because my initial prototype was 120 beats per minute, but I mean I felt that the gameplay was a little bit too slow, so I bumped up to 140 beats per minute, which is what it is now. And I'll be like playing with like different BPMs and that sort of stuff. So like that's basically counts like the beats and that sort of stuff. So on each beat, it sends sends a message to everything in the game environment. It's basically saying that a beat has passed. So like this, like kind of like a pulse in a sense, and this pulse sends a message, like just like a blank message to like everything in the game environment. And when let's just say you press the attack button, then that attack button, that information will like log, but it won't actually activate like the animation of the attack until that pulse has been set. So you can technically button match it, but your attacks will always be on beat in time.
You know what's crazy? I actually understood that. I don't know, maybe I'm a little smarter than I thought.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I think it's borderline genius, because 140 BPM is kind of a sweet spot, right? Because if you're too slow, you're only gonna get certain feelings out of that. If you're too fast, you're only gonna get certain feelings out of that, unless you get super fast or super slow or whatever. But like 140, there's a range there. So yeah, that makes sense, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and to add on to that, actually, so you can button mash it. However, how the game actually plays is if you just button mash and you're attacking an enemy, your attacks will be weak because you're just button mashing. So what I'm gonna have the game encourage you to do is attack on the beat of the rhythm, attack to the rhythm of the combo, basically. And then you basically choose different combos. You choose your own combos and that sort of stuff. You have to attack to the rhythm of that, and then that will be like critical hits. So like if you button mash, then the enemy can like counter or like break out of the combo and that sort of stuff. But if you hit on the in the rhythm of the attack, then your enemy can't like break out of it, and you can like clear like an enemy in just like one combo, depending on like the strength of the combo, and the higher difficulty the combo, the more powerful it is against like enemies and that sort of stuff. So you can do basic combos and like do it perfectly, but then like it'll obviously depend on like the kind of enemy you're facing as well. So if it's like a weak enemy, you can like clear them in just with like the simple combos if you like do them accurately, and then like the harder ones you'll have to like switch combo.
That's how you reward it for playing correctly.
Yeah. So that's basically pretty much like the combo. So it's not only like an action RPG, it's also a literal rhythm game as well. But you're using that rhythm game mechanic to fight the enemies.
See, that's really good, because that answered like one of the questions that we have written down. The other part of it was, will you benefit as a player, like somebody who knows music? Like, will that actually benefit you more versus
Yeah,
somebody who?
because there are special abilities that allow you to have access to like the whole chromatic scale, basically. Like there is this ability basically called like the scale, basically, and you each note is mapped to or on PC each note for now, unless I like figure out how to like implement like MIDI keyboard into the system. But for now, each note is mapped to like a number basically in this ability. So when it's activated, you shoot notes, and depending on like the harmonics of it, like it's like more damage, and like there's like sequences that you there's like sometimes there's like sequences like where you have to like literally play like in response to what an enemy has attacked to like kind of counter it, and like in a sense. So like if you imagine like missiles, it's like you shoot the missile with like the matching note, so you'll play like a melody, and then you have to play it back to like like that kind of stuff. But that's one ability that I've planned.
Oh, this is right on my alley. And
So-
how, if you happen to get that MIDI keyboard support,
Yeah, I can't promise that because that's not easy to do. But if I'm able to do that, you can bet money I will put that in there.
So, Stephen, I did want to ask because believe I have answered this already, but I want people who are listening to get the gravity of this. Okay, you are a one-man band, correct?
Correct.
no pun intended.
How? Yeah. Oh, I didn't even realize I did that. Nice. Look at that. How has that been? And have you considered maybe if there's someone who is also as musically gifted as yourself to come in and help? Have you thought about getting more people on to help you, or are you going to finish this out alone?
I intend to do the project alone only because I work faster that way. I mean, in terms of teamwork, don't really like teamwork. I can work in a team, but I would much rather 100% work alone, especially because everything that I am doing in the game, I have taught myself to a degree which I can basically do it like second nature. So for example, music and like game development and like 2D animation for the VFX and like also like the programming and that sort of stuff. Like these are all things I can do literally just from this chair right now. I mean, I've got my keyboard here, laptop there. So instead of having to like hire people and like wait to hear back from them when they're like, so if I needed like some music, and like music is like a big part, and I have to do a lot of trial and error lots of times. So it would be quite costly to like hire, like for example, a musician to do that for me, because then, and also like quite time costly as well, because if it's like not exactly the way I want it, then I'll have to like email that person like, oh yeah, I need this done, and it's like, oh yeah, like, I'll get back to you in like a day or two. I know I gotta like walk the dog or something, I don't know. But like I don't really want to wait for that. Whereas, and then like with me, I'll just, if I like have something that I want to correct, I'll just open up FL, correct it, implement in the game engine, and then like implement it, that's game dev. So that's like I'm doing 2 jobs like in like 15 minutes, so, rather than like having to delegate so many tasks to like. So I work, and it's like all in my comfort zone in a sense. So it's not like I'm not able to do this, so I'm stretching myself too much. Like this is also something I can do alone. So it's like I can, and I will. I think the only thing I'll delegate other tasks to is like voice acting, because I mean it'd be a bit weird if it's just just my voice everywhere.
It could work though with the character that you have. I think you can make that work. That could work though with the character that you have. I think you could make that work. And it's funny how every question.
He's like,
It's crazy how every question that we ask, you end up answering another one. Because I was going to ask you what DAW you use, and then you said FL.
Yeah.
And so I guess we FL brothers, yeah, good for us.
Of course.
But what I actually want to know is how, because who knows, I might want to actually do that one day. How is it what you do in FL can be implemented into a game engine? Like how does that work, and what is that relationship between those two softwares like?
So it's not like they work intertwined. I make all the music assets, export them as like sound file. I use OGG because it's like high quality but really like small file size. So I used to be using like WAV files, but they're like huge. So
Yeah, they
like
are.
just like one level would be like I don't know like some like gigabytes, and I'm like come on, it's like one test level. So like yeah, you do the sound assets basically like the attacks, the background music, and like basically work. I export them in like chunks, so it's not the whole song and it's not like the whole segment. It's like different components of that song in a sense, almost like layers. But like I'm going deep into the sub layers because like in a game environment, it's like anything can happen at any point, and there's like frame rates. Like if the frame kind of drops, then I'll need the music to be able to match that, so that there's no like latency issues with like the frame rate and like all that sort of stuff. So like I go really deep into like the micro layers of the song, like working bar, not even bar per bar, like quarter per quarter of each bar, like, and export that in the song and have that trigger, in a sense, have the game engine play the sound assets that I've made in a sense. So similar to how you've got like a VST and like a sound library or something like that, and like but like to the actual notes is that they're actually they're actually samples. So I'm basically making samples in a sense, and that's how I basically have the game engine play the samples that I create.
Now, there's actually, I feel like we jumped ahead and got technical. What's the story for Sword of Symphony?
Sorry, I just noticed it's raining outside. Yeah, the story of Sword of Symphony, without getting into too much detail, the main gist, like what I've kind of like shared, is it's basically a story of a young composer, and he is like he lives in this like musical kingdom, and there's like in this musical kingdom, music is like an energy source. So I'm trying to avoid spoilers.
Of course.
Yeah. Let's see. Because I was explaining it to like someone else, but like they already knew the story, so I was like, trying to like I don't want to repeat exactly what I said, like by accident. So yeah, they live in this musical kingdom, and he is like a detective in this musical kingdom, and they are basically like this group of detectives. They are commissioned by the royal council of this kingdom to solve musical mysteries throughout the kingdom in a sense. Okay. And each musical mystery kind of like delves into a topic of music theory. So it's kind of like, educational at the same time, but also like story wise. And also there's like a deeper clandestine plot that, each one of these mysteries are connected to. And yeah, that's all for now.
That's solid.
So is there because when I first saw the gameplay, and then you had a reveal trailer on IGN, which congratulations, by the way, that's big time, right? I got a real like heavy Kingdom Hearts vibe, right? So I wanted to ask, is there a particular game or game series or franchise that you maybe drew some inspiration from while creating your title? Is there any game in particular that inspired you to say, all right, this is helping me towards my own project?
So in terms of different aspects of the game, I've been inspired by different kinds of games. So for example, the style of the combat and like how it looks, that's inspired by, there's this mobile game called Punishing Grey Raven, and I was inspired by just how it looks, like the aesthetic of like the fast-paced kind of combat, the flashiness of it, and just how like clean and like fluent, and how long the combos are, and like how satisfying they are to watch. So Punishing Grey Raven, also Near Automata as well. And in terms of like the story, like in like the pacing and like the style of it, I'm going for more of like so Bandai Namco's original anime games, like Scarlet Nexus, like God Eater, like games like that, where like there's it's like a very team based kind of story, where like it's like there is a main character, but there's a lot of equal-ish focus on like the team and their relationships with each other and that sort of stuff, and like
the harmony, if you will,
and like and like their differences and like how they kind of like work past that and like kind of like complement each other, and like that's kind of like the feel of the story I'm kind of like just the vibe of the story I'm kind of going for. And in terms of like the actual story content itself, it's like an over exaggeration of my own experiences in a sense. So yeah, it's like a very, very exaggerated autobiography because the main character Stefan, he's a self-taught musician who like started from scratch and had to he rose up to where he is right now and where he gets to, like not through the usual means. So like no like formal like piano lessons and sort of stuff, and like a lot of people sort of looked at him and went, yeah, you're not gonna make it because you haven't done this and this and this, and you're not being approved by this and that sort of stuff. And like it's just a case of like if you believe in yourself and you actually like and do it despite what people say and do it your own way, like, and there's nothing like wrong with doing it your own way. You can pioneer new things and think outside the box and think creatively, because like then you can even rival and like rise above like the proper way to do it in a sense. Like that's kind of like Stefan's kind of main arc in a sense.
So
and that's literally me as well. Like I mean, I didn't have any formal piano lessons, and the way I play piano is like very unorthodox. Like the people like look at how I play or like the techniques I use in my music and be like, that's not usually how you do it, but like I make it work because it's like it's like a different kind of art that I've made in a sense. It's like like that in a sense.
so why do you think you know my life? Because we never met. Like I don't know why I don't know. Like how is it hard to be a genius? Just let me know. Because like to be self-taught is one thing, and I know we kind of don't think of it that way. And I'm putting myself in it because I'm self-taught pretty much in everything, right? This YouTube thing, I just kind of got tossed into the deep end and did it. And so, and with music, with all of that, and I can relate to that, to the story of, well, that's not how you do it, because especially at a time where people were really getting into digital music, and everybody that played physical instruments was like, oh, that's cheating, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I can relate to all of this, right? So I don't know, it's sort of like you don't really think of it as being a real thing when you're doing it. It's just kind of like, oh, I want to learn how to do this. Oh, it'll be cool if I can make this happen, and like that. So did you purposely learn all of these skills for the purpose of putting them together into these sorts of projects, or was it a thing where it came out of necessity? Oh, I'm in university. I need to work on this, and this is the best way to do it.
Well, sort of Symphony came half out of necessity and half out of like, well, I actually want to do this, because the actual idea of making a new project came out of necessity. But what I did with that was totally like my own, like totally my own from there in a sense. And yeah, I think there was another question that you asked in there. What was it?
Let me see. I think you pretty much answered it. Just how
Definitely.
the skill set came together. Like just with music, you already were a musician, so you kind of put
that as well.
That was already there.
Music
and then animation.
So, yeah, that all came just out of me being inspired by stuff and wanting to try stuff out. And obviously, when I first started, I was like reasonably trash, but it's like a case of just you just do it until you get good, really. Like it's just, you got to see progression as like a ladder kind of situation, like, and like the more you put into it, the better you become, and like especially like the more you dedicate to improvement. So yeah, but like in terms of like music, well, since I'm first and foremost like I'm a musician, so I didn't really think about animation or game development before that until there was a moment where I was doing, for my music YouTube channel, I was doing a 1,000 subscriber 1,000 subscribers special, and I wanted to do something for it. So that's when I decided, let me do like a little animation for it. And that was like my first animation that I like ever like put out there, and it was like trash. So like the comments were like, well, not this is trash, but it could be better than this. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, it can be better than this. I could have just easily been like, oh yeah, animation is not for me. But I wanted to like, I felt like it would be a disservice to like, my potential if I didn't try again, and try and see if I could do better, especially knowing how I could be better. It would be a kind of like a waste of potential if I just didn't be better, So I did it again, and that was like that spiraled into like the animated series of my purpose project actually. So, and then that's how it was. So it kind of like all came from what like each new thing that I do is birthed out of like an existing thing that I'm already doing. So with the game development, that came because the story of the animated series had gotten like too large, so I wanted to like divide it. And then I did the game, and then I started learning game development, and then saw this symphony that kind of that birthed out of like I already like taught myself game development, and I am already a musician, so sandwich them together, saw the symphony, like pretty much.
I dig
So
it.
if I can ask you this, Stephen. So it's the year that Sword of Symphony releases, and there's millions of people across the world playing it. It's the number one game on Twitch, right? Are streamers, because you are composing music, are streamers safe to play this game without any sort of issues with copyright?
Yeah, it should be all right. Shouldn't be that shouldn't be an issue now.
That was quick and easy. I love it. I love it.
I don't see that being an issue. I mean, I'm looking at like different areas of the law where like, oh yeah, well obviously this is like you haven't got the mechanical rights to use this because it's part of and it's like the music and it's like the recording, but nah, like it's some things like this. It's like a unique case which you can't really help. So for that, nah, you can stream it. Go on.
Well, okay, so I'm like addicted to collecting like special edition stuff. Like when it comes to different games, like I'm a sucker for it. Are is there any? I know this may be far out, but is there any plans for like vinyls? Is there plans for like some type of because this would be dope. Like honestly, I could already imagine it. Like I'm seeing like mint green for some reason. Like I could just really see a whole dope vinyl set with this game, and maybe I'm just throwing it out there and hoping that it happens.
It would be cool though. I mean, the scope of where I want this project to go in terms of those details, like I haven't fully mapped out because they're more of like I see them kind of like opportunity checkpoints where like this comes on and I'm like, oh yeah, that could be cool. Let me to do that. So it's like kind of like opportunities that I see along the way and I'm able to do as I'm like doing it, and like it's like the right time for me to do it, which is when I do it. So I mean, for now, all I can say is possibly. Like I'm open to that. That sounds like it would be quite a good idea. Yeah.
So I know a lot. We talk to a lot of independent developers, and one thing that we'd like to ask, or sometimes we just naturally find out, is if they've considered at some point during their project using something like a Kickstarter. As your project grows and as you become more popular, and obviously with that comes possibly a bigger scope of a game, because I know you wanted to give people what they want, what they are seeing. Have you thought about using, or at some point going towards like a Kickstarter to make sure you have the proper funding if you are considering expanding the scope of your title?
So I've really thought about that, and I'm not doing a Kickstarter because right now I'm in talks with certain companies that want to fund the game. So like
Okay.
publishers, so indie game funds alike. I've just recently signed with a talent agency, UTA, like United Talent Agency. They're quite like large and like they're good at like finding like the best deals for me. Like but prior to that, like a few weeks ago, I was just doing all that myself, and like I was in like meeting after meeting after meeting. So it definitely helps to like take all that off my shoulders because I want to develop the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now working with my agent to basically do like a little PowerPoint pitch, just to explain to these companies. I mean, he's already told me that like most of these companies already know me, so it's not really like a case of like it's like a Dragon's Den kind of scenario. It's more like I'm just explaining more about the project so they know what to expect down like the roadmap of it. So that's basically what I was literally doing, today. And yeah, pretty much. So in terms of funding, yeah, I've already thought about that, and that is something that is going to be dealt with, and it's going to be it's going to happen.
So just to rewind a bit back to the actual development, was there a particular reason, or did you just like it for there sort of being a focus on classical music?
I mean, it's that way right now because I've not released that much, but different genres. Actually, genres are a very big part of sort of Symphony story. Different genres will be explored. So right now it's classical music because that's the kind of music that Stefan, the main character, like that's what he makes. But then there's other characters that make different styles and make different genres, like different fighting styles, and like the actual, because you play not only as Stefan, but you work in a team of detectives, and like it's like you play in pairs, and there's like an AI partner following you around, and you can like switch like characters like in real time in a sense, and like their moveset is very different, and like the sound that they produce and that sort of stuff, and it very much plays into like their characteristics as a person, like what kind of like music they produce, and also what just suits them aesthetically.
So does it make you feel a way? Like, are you happy that whatever year this game comes out is going to be game of the year? Like, does that fill you with joy? Because I know for a fact, for me, this is everything I want in a game. So I mean, from the genre of action RPG to the fact that it's music based, even down to the combat, and down to its themes, to the fact that it's sort of also low key going to be teaching music theory, to the fact that it's going to have that team thing, it's going to have a focus on, I don't want to call it an ensemble cast because I don't know how many characters, but it's going to have a focus on different characters, and that's something that I love within games, within media, within a story, just in general. It sounds like the story is going to be magnificent, especially given that there's going to be a mystery to solve, or mysteries, I don't know. And then the fact that you'll be flipping genres with different characters. Like, I don't know if you know how many people who have needed something like that, or how many gamers who have been waiting on something like that, especially musician gamers. But yeah, I hope you know that this has like cult following material. It's got cult following written all over it.
That's nice to know, man. That's nice to it.
Facts.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a fly on my watermelon.
No. So I know you're knee deep in talking with different publishers. You're knee deep in development. Do you have not a release date, but a release window, something that you're looking toward? I plan on within this time frame, maybe having people experience this title.
Between 3 and 4 years. I mean, 4 years is like a contingency year, but I'm really aiming for like 3 years. Because I mean, the roadmap that I've planned out, if I, stay on track, which I mean, I'm going to, reasonably 3 years.
Okay. So the best part about that is we can build a long lasting relationship with you and contact you again in 3 years. And I want to compare this.
Maybe like, haven't done it yet.
I think that's awesome. So I guess for my own personal self, my last question for me is, because I am a terrible mouse and keyboard person, absolutely terrible. Okay. Is there any way possible, and I know the answer is no, that there's some way, shape, or form this game could be even attempted with a controller?
I would try it because I would like to port it to other consoles. As of now, it's looking like what I can confirm right now is that it's going to be a PC release first.
Mm-hmm.
But I am going to look into seeing if it's possible to port it or have it be compatible for controller support, because I know a lot of people that have asked about it have also asked, controller support or what consoles it's going to be on. And, like, my answer is always the same. Like, I would like it to be on like other consoles, and I will like attempt it, because one platform I'd really love it to be on is mobile. But in terms of like consoles like PlayStation and like Xbox, that's something that I want to achieve as well and see if I can do it. I know it's possible, which is why I'm not saying no. I know it's possible, which is why I will attempt it. So I will see how that looks. I'll see how it looks, and what I can do with that. Like, it's likely that it possibly will happen as long as I like work on it. And I'm saying I'm gonna work on it. Like, it's likely, but just for like, I can't promise it yet, but I will, try and make it happen.
Hey, even if not, this is the type of game and that I want to go out and support. So I will deal with my bad wrist, and just so that I can play this game if it is only mouse and keyboard. I had to throw that out there, and I know Baron is laughing because he knows how terrible I am with a mouse and keyboard.
Maybe this will be the game to teach me then, like.
There we go. There we go.
There we go.
I feel like I've been like, I don't even know how to say it because the way I was thinking about saying it would have been pause worthy. But I feel like I've been fanboying enough over this game that I know only so much about, and only found out about like a few days ago, a week ago, whatever like that. But like, I feel like I said everything I wanted to say as far as what I see it as. Like, it's absolutely like cult status material, like with just what we've seen so far. And I don't know, I feel like that is like an understatement if it turns out to be the game that you present it to be. If it turns out to be the game that you describe it as, it kind of goes without saying, like, especially for people like me. Let me see. Now I have to go find you on all social media. I feel like, I mean, we're going to ask when we end this anyway, but I feel like it's a must that you drop all your links and everything, and we put it all over the screen, because everybody and their mama needs to know about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's easy because I just have a flow page for it. So, that's just the flow.page/Store the Symphony.
So,
and that is pretty much all the Store the Symphony stuff. In terms of like my personal stuff, it's flow.page/Stephen Ddungu. And that's just my stuff. So, and then just in case you want to like, look at my purpose stuff, I think it's flow.page/Project Purpose, I believe. Well, let me double check that because I haven't actually touched that in a while. Before addition misinformation, and you end up on some random person's flow page, like, oh, why you
right?
I want to see your purpose stuff. It's like, what do you have? Me? Yeah.
Also,
Project Purpose.
Okay. And then also, do you have some form of like Patreon or something that people can support you? Okay, awesome.
So we can shower you in coins.
/Stephen Ddungu. Let me check that again because some random land in some random person's Patreon. It'll help them. Yeah, subscribe to their Patreon too. I mean, it will help. No matter where it comes from. But yeah, patreon.com/Stephen Ddungu.
So
Stephen, oh no, go ahead, Dallas. Sorry. Oh man, you got so much editing to do. I apologize.
Oh man, so much. Before we do get out of here, and before we say our goodbyes and all of that, I have to. It would be weird for me to not ask you, for the sake of all the producers out here, the internet producers, the musicians out here, and you on FL, which is like, it's the standard now. So it would be crazy if I didn't ask you a couple production questions. Like, for one, VST wise, everybody in their mama cares about sounds. I need something good. I need something that sounds good. What do you recommend? And if possible, could you recommend a couple free ones?
So what I use, and it's in a sense, like, because I've used like VSTs, like vanilla VSTs, and I'm using what I'm using now. But really, what it actually depends on isn't necessarily good quality VSTs will help, but it is really about how you use them. Because I know, I mean, because I used to use before FL, I had a Mac and I was using Logic, and Logic 9, and that had some questionable orchestral VSTs, but because I was using them, I'd kind of like geared my workflow around how they sound. So, for example, to have like a fuller sound, like in the bass region, and also like in the mid, like to kind of like fill out the chords and all sort of stuff to like add more color, I would like sometimes double the bass and like do octaves where I wouldn't have to with like a more expensive VST. So it's like, it's not, the VST is like, yeah, is lacking, but it's not, that isn't the deciding factor of whether your music is gonna turn out good or not. It's your own individual skill in a sense. So but if you just want to know what I use, then yeah, I use my orchestral libraries. I use Metropolis Arc 1 and 2, and also for the violin I use Joshua Bell violin, and for the cello I use Tina Guo cello, and then I just have like a bunch of like random like SFC kind of files that I don't know, can't remember the name of because they're like everywhere. And but yeah, pretty much like I think like you don't really want to focus too much on the on the most expensive VST, because it's really about how you use that VST. Like figure out, kind of get used to like what works well with the sound, how to use that particular sound. Like sound qualities are different in every VST, so kind of like, and then like kind of find a way to compensate with that, whether it's to like add more of something to go with it or like something else. Because for like my high end of like the orchestrals, for like my strings, when I was using like, you know, the questionable VSTs and then Logic, the violins sounded too like stale. It's like a weird word to describe it, but like if you heard it, you'd know what I mean. Stale, like not dry, but stale. So to add a little bit more airiness, I'd double it with like a flute to have that kind of like soft sound quality to kind of match like a sound of like an actual violin. And that like, and it's like subtle, you wouldn't even tell it's like a violin and a flute, but it actually is a violin and a flute, and it just sounds like a regular violin. Like stuff like that's what I basically mean. Like you have to really like engineer the sound, not really look at it like a sound, but look at it like, you know,
like
sounds,
components of a sound. Like
like you're basically engineering in a sense.
like personally, when I was using my questionable VSTs, which now I still kind of use vanilla stuff sometimes too, but when I was using mine, if I wanted that, like one of the qualities that you just spoke of, like say in a piano, I would mix say the regular piano with an electric piano, and it gave me like a softer feel, right? I want everybody to know I'm making it a point to clip this and send it to my brother Trent, because he would always ask me, bro, send me some sounds, tell me where I can find sounds at, blah blah, and I would tell him this exact thing. So maybe seeing what you just did, and other producers out here too, maybe seeing what you just did, what you just talked about, and you know, seeing clearly that you know what you're talking about, maybe people will listen to that, and they'll try to put more of a focus on how they do it. So yeah,
I mean, like
that.
even now using like Metropolis Arc 1 and 2, I still, if I want to have like a certain sound that doesn't provide me, I will still use that same engineering process. So like if you have like a DAW that you're using that has like some vanilla stuff, I'd focus more on getting, before you buy any like new or like more expensive VSTs, get used to engineering the sound, because that's gonna like, even when you do get the new expensive VSTs, you're gonna end up wanting to do that, and that will save you a lot more money, because you know, yeah, if you're just constantly trying to buy new VSTs to get that sound, like you're gonna like lose a lot more money than if you like you taught yourself how to engineer to replicate that sound without having to spend a dime, you know. So yeah,
I'm gonna look into
like,
the camera
so like
when
the
I say
amount of
this.
VSTs, like I only have like those VSTs I mentioned to you, but like I don't have like loads of like paid for VSTs. In fact, like most of my VST collection is actually vanilla stuff. Like I mean, there's a VSC, I can't remember what its abbreviation stands for, but VSCO2 orchestra. Like that's like, it's for free. It's like a free orchestral sample, but I actually use more instruments from that and engineered that than the actual like, you know, Metropolis Art 1 and 2, like the high end like ones that I've just like mentioned to you. because another thing as well, you don't really want to have it sound too like, because what's the word for it? Like, not to like throw shade on like different composers' works, because like they are good, but like what I personally don't really like is that kind of, you know, that sound where it's like you can kind of tell that they're just relying on the VSTs to get the quality of their sound, and it's not like the actual composition itself, like the actual melodic ideas and that sort of stuff. It's just that they've like, you know, done like a really
Musical
simple
sounds.
like yeah, like a really like simple kind of like, you know, chord structure, and like kind of like with like, you know, just like the basic formation of chords, and kind of relied on like the quality of the VSTs to make it sound amazing. Whereas what actually makes it sound amazing is, you know, the methods that you use, what you do with it, like, you know, where you stick certain harmonics. That's kind of like what has like made my sound, you know, like always sound good, even when I was using vanilla stuff. In fact, sometimes like I'll listen back to my like vanilla stuff I was just using, like the questionable VSTs. Some songs that I've made in there actually sound like better than some things I did in a hurry with my like most expensive like VSTs, simply because of how I use the VSTs and that sort of stuff. So it's, yeah.
This right here, especially for y'all, for all the rap producers and stuff like that, this is the difference between a beat maker and a producer. This is the difference.
Yeah.
I feel like sitting back and watching two artists like speak, I'm like, I don't know what they saying, but it sounds real good.
Man, nobody knows
This
what
is
it means, but
Seriously.
it's provocative. It gets the
it's
people going.
provocative.
Nah.
Stephen, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you had a lot of stuff going on and you're a very busy man. I want to thank you for taking time to speak with us today. We're really hoping here at Level One we can build a relationship with you throughout the years. We would love to have you back as we get closer to release to talk more about the title. I know there's going to be the big boys, the IG and the Games, who's going to be clamoring for your time. We're hoping that we can get another hour from you as you get closer to release. We would really, really appreciate it. Before we go, is there any type of lasting impressions you want to give about Sword of Symphony? Anything else you might want to get out there to get people looking more into the project?
I'm glad you asked that. I am also associated with 6 other independent creators working on their own individual IPs, and Sword of Symphony has crossover projects with each one of their IPs, like games or like comic novels and sort of stuff. Like we call ourselves the Inner Circle. There's 7 of us, and there is so like what many people have been asking me about Sword of Symphony is the link between Sword of Symphony and Purpose, like my Purpose projects. Because if you look at like the two of them, like Purpose looks very like serious and like, you know, very like moody and very like realistic, and Sword of Symphony looks like, you know, very magical, very like, you know, fantasy. Like you fight with music, like it's nothing like that would happen in Purpose. But like I've made a very solid canon link between the two projects, and that is my biggest secret I will possibly ever keep. I've only told one person a fourth of it, so that's how much I'm like keeping it a secret. However, I am pulling clues to the link in the crossover projects that I have with the other Inner Circle members. So, for example, one, and I actually just posted a little clue today, actually. One of the members of the Inner Circle, his pseudonym is Ace, and he is making a project called AI Code, and we have a crossover project where with Sword of Symphony and like AI Code in the future, but like we've been planning it in like great detail in like Discord, and so we've already like mapped out like a lot of like what's happening in this crossover kind of like story, and yeah, we kind of finalized what we kind of want for it. So today I posted a kind of like well, I did fan art for his character because it was his birthday, but I also like did a musical kind of cover of the theme in his trailer, and at the very end of it there is a solid clue to basically what I've just talked about the link to Purpose, Sword of Symphony, and the story of like AI Code and how it links into how it links into that crossover project. But yeah, and I was a bit nervous of like, you know, releasing it, because this is like the first time I've dropped such a big clue like this. But I dropped it in my Discord, like my personal Discord first, and a lot of people, you know, kind of flew over their heads. So I was like, okay, it's safe to like, because I did the Discord first, and then I did Twitter, and then Instagram, and if someone guesses it, I mean, obviously I won't say if they're correct, but and they probably won't, because this is like the most craziest idea I've ever done, like the link between Sword, Symphony, and Purpose. Like, it is the most craziest idea I've linked. Like, people are already speculating it's like a Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy kind of relationship. Like, I can solidly confirm it is nothing like that. It looks like that, and I want it to kind of look like that, because like my kind of marketing technique at first was to kind of have it look like a Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts kind of relationship, but like the actual, what it actually is nothing like that. It is the most maddest idea I've ever thought of. I didn't even think it was going to work, but I wrote more into it, and I made it work, and I was like, yeah, I'm not telling anyone until... But yeah, I want to shock people, like actually shock people with how like I've linked Purpose and Sword and Symphony together. So, and there is a clue in like the post that I've just done. This on Twitter, and it's now on Instagram as well, in the Sword and Symphony socials.
I have to figure it out now. Like, you can't just drop that there and not have me. Like, I'm one of those people who theorized about every game with a deep story. So, you know, with Kingdom Hearts, with like all the Metal Gear games, anything Kojima does, really. I had Death Stranding this much figured out by the time it dropped. Like, I was this close to cracking it by the time it dropped, and I was mostly right. And if I could get that, then I feel like as soon as I play through Sword of Symphony, maybe check out like Purpose, and I feel like I might be able to get it.
I don't think you will. That's literally the craziest idea. Like, if it's what you're probably thinking it is, it's likely not that. It's like, I think the best clue is that it's the most craziest thing I've ever done. So think wild. Like, I mean, like, there's crossovers like, you know, the Avengers, where like, you know, they're in the same universe. It is it's nothing like that. It is crazier on how I've linked the two. It's actually like a crazy idea. That's your clue.
Okay. Well, listen, Steven, once again, thank you so much for taking time out to hang with us today. We'll have all of his socials, the Sword of Symphony socials, Purpose's socials, everything will be in the description down below. Shout out to Dallas, who's going to have a heck of a time putting this piece together. And again, Steven, we really look forward to talking to you and again in the future. We cannot wait to see more. We can't wait to play, hopefully one day with the controller. Yeah, definitely on mouse and keyboard. Hopefully one day with the controller.
Hopefully with a MIDI controller.
There we go. Hey, we're going to get up out of here. We're going to stop the stream. Thank you so much for rocking with us. You guys, please go and check out the project. Go follow Steven. And just support everything he does. Support this creator. It's a one-man band that deserves all your love and support. You guys have a wonderful day. We're out.
Thank you. Can't wait to be back. See ya.